I'm not going to. We're live.
Oh, he's surprised. He's surprised.
I was trying really, really hard, even though I'm the one that pushes the button every time. What's up, everybody? What's up, Kevin?
Welcome to the Two Bros Wrestling Show.
Or Doug is surprised yet again. We could call it either thing, you know. Doug gets surprised on Sunday night. Every Sunday.
Sunday. And this is the Sunday before the next WWE pay-per-view. And that is our main event topic, Doug. We're going to be talking Royal Rumble here in a couple of moments. And it is my second favorite WWE pay-per-view next to WrestleMania. So I'm always excited about Royal Rumble.
And it's clear, well, it used to be a very exciting time. Now I think it's just a lot of chaos and garbage into like really expensive and really flamboyant garbage that is WrestleMania. But maybe things will turn around this year.
Maybe it will. We will talk about it, and hopefully you all join in the conversation if you have Royal Rumble thoughts. We're going to pick some winners. We're going to talk about who, possible surprises, all that coming up. But Doug, as we always do, we need to start off the top of the show with the opening bell.
I will not be surprised by the graphic. I control that.
Well, I'll control the bell. Wait a minute. I maybe have hit the wrong button.
I love our production value.
That's right, everybody. Our own one of the two bros is 1 year closer to being a bro man. Happy birthday, Doug.
Thank you.
It's not like I don't have news prepared, but I had to start off the top of the show by saying happy birthday to one of our two bros who's doing the show on his birthday. I even gave him an out last week. I'm like, if you don't want to do the show, he's like, because, duty before party, I guess.
Hey, I got the party right here, man. I'll party while on duty.
Well, I wanted to get the celebrating out of the way because I think there's some things in the news tonight that maybe is a little heavier or that will not make you happy. So we wanted to make you happy to start with. And now I'm going to give you some news, Doug, that probably won't make you happy. Normally, when I write the news through the week, I make myself notes and I have it on my screen here, but I'm going to minimize the notes so I can make sure I can see Doug's face. So I want to see his head explode. Because last week, Doug was not happy when we talked Wrestle Kingdom and how 15,000 people sounded like a lot of people to him. Oh. So, as we reported last week on the Two Bros Wrestling Show, WWE had announced for the next 3 years their plans for WrestleMania as far as the cities go, including this year pushing WrestleMania back 2 weeks to go 2 nights at Raymond James Stadium. At the time, we speculated, does this mean fans? Does this mean, what are they going to try to do? We have a little more clarity this week and some reports that are coming out that, yes, indeed, WWE does have plans to attempt to get people in the building for 2 nights. And the rumor is that they are hoping to get close to 25,000 people a night into a stadium in Florida. All right, Doug.
So, okay, I'm not sure how big the Tokyo Dome is, but 15,000 people still sounds like a lot, especially when they kind of moved everybody down closer to the stage floor, the ring and on the floor and everything. Did you say 25,000? I think Raymond James holds about 80,000 people.
I do believe it is bigger than Tokyo Dome, and of course Tokyo Dome is an enclosed stadium, so being outdoors at Raymond James Stadium will help, but it's WrestleVotes that was reporting WWE will be permitting upwards of 25,000 was their word, so 25 may be the floor and not the ceiling for what they think they can do. But obviously April is just 2 months away, and we're talking Florida. We're talking WrestleMania typically has a large international audience, which it likely won't this year because of, travel restrictions. So you're talking 25,000 plus American wrestling fans. We're probably not as compliant. So to me, that just sounds like a whole lot of bad potential ready to happen. I understand. I want fans back too. I miss it.
I do too. I want fans back in wrestling. The dystopian tribunal that's the Thunderdome is, the crowd noise has gotten so much better, with their cues and everything that they. Man, I don't know. I get nervous watching Dynamite every week when I see the fans there, and watching Wrestle Kingdom just is like, oh, spread out, everybody.
And furthermore, that same news report, Doug, is also reporting that there are some who are wanting what they call a, quote, soft reopening of a touring schedule following WrestleMania, to actually take the show back out on the road. So obviously we'll be reporting on that, but these would be big developments if we start getting fans back into buildings and wrestlers back on the road. But I don't know, just in many ways seems like we're a long way from that being able to happen.
I've joked recently because, I got my second round of the vaccine where I work, the day job in healthcare. I've got my second round of the vaccine, which took me out for an entire day. But, I joke that, I'm ready to start licking doorknobs and running around without a mask because I've got my 95% immunity, or at least I'm working up to it. And I would like to think by summer we're going to be closer to that, but I just don't know. But WrestleMania is not in the summer. WrestleMania is 2 months away, and I'm not sure we can get 1 million people vaccinated a day, up through WrestleMania.
And we're also talking if 25,000 folks, even if they, best case scenario, are vaccinated, like, yourself, and I will be here shortly with my second shot. We still could potentially be carriers. We get 25,000 people together. We come back with something, and until we get much larger vaccination numbers, it just seems like a large amount of fans to put in the building. Because Daly's Place is doing what? A thousand?
I'm not sure about the number, but it's too many when I look around. I mean, they're all spread out and everything. Or, the people aren't spread out, I'm assuming, are in households together, or they're together in some capacity where they can sit so close. But even though, at least then the fans are still wearing masks. And yes, it is outside, just like the Raymond James studio, but studio. I'm in the studio. The Raymond James Stadium. But no.
I'm wanting to say that Daly's Place, I heard the number at one point in time, like 1,000, maybe 1,000 fans in the building. So, I mean, we're talking a significant amount more. If this holds true, we will see. They have made no announcement yet, but I guarantee if it's possible, and it being the state of Florida, they will probably try it. But in other news that maybe better news,
I could rant on this for an entire hour. We could do an hour on this. So.
And we do. We have a pandemic special coming here in a couple more weeks. So yeah, we'll see. By that time, we want to have more clarity. Either that or more ranting for you folks. WWE Backstage is returning, at least for a one-off episode. Backstage was part of the original contract that brought WWE programming to the Fox network. It was a chat show that they did for the first 6-7 months. It was on FS1. It was hosted by Renee Young, and notably had the return of CM Punk to a WWE broadcast, and it got good ratings, but the show was canceled by Fox during the pandemic as they cut back on their studio programming to try to save cost. And subsequently, since that was sort of a star vehicle for Renee Young, very shortly thereafter, she left WWE after her multi-year run there. But yeah, they're doing a Royal Rumble edition on FS1 the night before Royal Rumble, and Renee Young is going to be back as the host. This is notable because many people thought that her next role in wrestling may be following her husband, Jon Moxley, to AEW, or perhaps something else in the sports world or announcing world. Again, this is maybe just a one-off, but she is going to be back hosting the show. Paige is also going to be back, as well as Booker T. Paige is, to a lesser extent than Renee, it's still a bit of a surprise because Paige was kind of involved in that whole controversy over WWE's edict this past year about Twitch and some of the other third-party sites and wrestling superstars using their real persona or their wrestling personas on those sites. Paige is a huge gamer, has a big Twitch channel, obviously, since she can't wrestle any longer. That primary source of her income, I'm sure, and so she's also returning to the fold, at least for this broadcast. So, backstage back this Saturday night.
So here's my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Just like bringing CM Punk back to it, it is a Fox network show. It's not a WWE product, even though so I think it's probably easier to bring back people like Renee Young. And well, obviously it was a lot easier to get CM Punk back into the WWE universe by bringing him back through the Fox network to a WWE type program. And maybe that's why
allowing him to criticize the programming too, which I think probably like
so
that.
Maybe that's why it's a lot easier to get Renee, or what is her actual name? Renee Paquette, or
that's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, so to get Renee back, to get Paige on there, who's probably having some internal battles with WWE. Of course, I think she has a lot of more stroke than Zelina Vega did. To go, I'm going to keep gaming, and then go, okay. You do you over there in the corner then, but and of course Booker T is Booker T. He's
down for the payday,
right? So maybe it's easier to get some of these players involved in backstage, backstage one night stand, as it seems to be.
And I hope that they do continue the show. I always enjoyed it. It's probably worth noting, though, that CM Punk is not announced, at least for this initial edition. And it's also worth noting that Renee Young, if you didn't already know this, when she comes back, you're going to see a very pregnant Renee Young. She's 21 weeks or so at this point in time. So obviously, any return she has is going to only be temporary before she will be taking some maternity leave anyway. And speaking of WWE programming that is surprising, I wouldn't call it a pay-per-view, but maybe a special event, but sort of a, how in the world of music now, it's like the in thing to like surprise drop your album without any, forewarning. I think that's kind of what WWE's done with this. So this Tuesday, January 26th, I think like 9 o'clock in the morning here, our time, 9:30, WWE will be airing Superstar Spectacle on the WWE Network. And what this surprise special is a show broadcast for Indian television. It will be airing in primetime there in India as part of WWE's new, television contracts they have there in India. And even though it stars, everybody from Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, all your WWE favorites from both Raw and SmackDown, the focus is interwoven between those folks are WWE superstars who you will know, like a Jinder Mahal, as well as superstars from India that you do not know, such as a couple of trainees that have graduated from the Great Khali's camp there in India. A lot of folks think that this is a start, perhaps. Maybe they might even announce during this broadcast, the future plans for a NXT India brand, which is long been rumored and reported as the next, the next branch of NXT as they try to go international with that. There was at one point in time they were wanting an NXT Japan or an NXT China, but then that kind of got pushed down the line, and NXT India moved above that. Obviously, you're talking about one of the largest markets in the world, so it makes all the business sense for them to have their own product. And who knows, this could be the start of that. But WWE Superstar Spectacle, it will be airing on the WWE Network in addition to its India showing. So that is on Tuesday. And less good news for WWE, NBC has confirmed that they will be shutting down the NBC Sports Network cable station. And this could end up having significant impact to WWE programming because NBC has a lot of contracts that they will probably have to continue to, try to honor and move things around that were exclusive to their network that they're shuttering this year. And that includes properties like the NHL, soccer, NASCAR. It's being reported, though, that most of those sports will probably be moving to the USA Network. and NBC, the sports channel that they currently have, has a Wednesday night hockey night, and that series moving to USA obviously would require a weekly change in NXT broadcasting, which may not be the worst thing, since wrestling fans right now are having to decide between NXT and AEW. But I think that both have really benefited from a mini version of the Monday Night Wars. These Wednesday Night Wars, I think, kind of lifted all boats. But obviously, if you have a major sport like hockey and they move it to USA, they will bump NXT, and it may not be the worst thing for it to find another night. Maybe even more problematic, though, for Vince McMahon, who keeps his eyes more on Raw and SmackDown, is the fact that when NASCAR has rain delays or any events that bump their races from their normal Sunday race times, those events happen on Mondays, which could be preemptions for Monday Night Raw, the flagship program of WWE. So this could be significant for those in Titan Tower. So stay tuned for that as well. This week on the WWE talk show The Bump, Chad Gable broke the news that his former tag team partner, Jason Jordan, is actually attempting a return to the ring. It's been several years since Jason Jordan has wrestled, and some thought his career was over after a pretty significant injury kind of cut short what was a very promising career. So best of luck to Jordan to actually return, and here's hoping that means an American Alpha reunion down the line. I mean, people who don't know American Alpha have really missed out on what Chad Gable was really, really all about. Probably one of my favorite teams in the history of NXT. Never got really to showcase what they do on the big stage. I hope that happens. Controversy continues to follow Lio Rush. Lio Rush, wherever he goes, controversy seems to follow. But the current MLW middleweight champ and former WWE star, whose time with Vince McMahon in that Vince McMahon system was marked by all kinds of backstage drama. He's been a contestant this year on MTV's reality series, The Challenge Double Agents, which the prize at the end of this is $1 million. And on this week's episode, Rush made the abrupt decision to withdraw himself from the program, and therefore himself from the chances of winning $1 million. I'm not sure how far along they were, how close he was, but to be to take yourself out before you're eliminated seems odd. But he cited the fact that the show was affecting his mental health, and I know that mental health issues was some of the things that he had pointed to in the past with some of his problems he's had in the wrestling business. He was saying that the house that he was living in with the other contestants began bringing back troubling thoughts of his youth, growing up in group homes and the like. So unfortunate that he's out. Super talented individual, amazing talker, wonderful in the ring. Obviously, your mental health, though, is something completely different, and we wish Lio Rush all the luck in the world and getting control of that for his own well-being. So best of luck to him. Other troubling news: Joey Ryan has been someone who's had some difficulty in 2020, like a lot of male wrestlers who got caught up in the speaking out movement. Joey Ryan is one who had allegations leveled against him, but in just reporting the news here and trying to get some balance. So we've reported the bad. We'll report some things that, at least in his favor, he's had some news this week that has gone his way. He won a default judgment against a woman who had made allegations against him during the speaking out movement last summer. The defendant in the case did not respond in time, so this resulted in a default judgment in Ryan's favor. The lawsuit was in the U.S. District Central Court, and this decision was handed on the 7th. The citation basically was he was claiming that the woman had made false allegations against him that resulted in damages to his reputation and his ability to make a livelihood. So the defendant in the case where she just didn't show, what happens now is, she has the option to file a motion to have the default judgment set aside, which would allow her another chance to move forward with her case. She would need to, though, provide a valid reason for why she did not respond and was not, provided in a timely, a fashion, that answer. Joey himself has also filed multiple lawsuits since allegations have been levied against him. He definitely has been one of the ones more vocal about fighting back. So, him doing this against, defamation basically against her is just one of the many suits that he still has going. Earlier this month, he had 2 of those suits that were dismissed by a California judge, and one has since been refiled in the state of Pennsylvania. And he still has a couple of outstanding lawsuits in the court system, one against Impact Wrestling, for allegedly breaching his contract when they let him go during speaking out allegations, as well against a different woman who has made accusations against him. So he's got a victory for now, but there's still several fights that he is battling. So we'll keep you updated as we have since all this news broke earlier in 2020 about the Speaking Out movement. And that is the news.
Wow.
There's a lot of news.
There was a lot of news, and you didn't even touch on the Undertaker on the Joe Rogan podcast this week. That is another show into itself. I had to run out for a little while today and tried to listen to it in the car, but unfortunately I didn't have 2 hours and 44 minutes to go through the entire thing during the time I was out. But let me just say this, that I think there's probably some good reasons why it was better for Mean Mark to stay in character for his 30 plus years as The Undertaker. And I'm going to leave it at that, man. Because, The Undertaker, the worker, the man it's a great character. Mark Calaway has devoted his life to the sport. Now he's out there doing stuff out of character, and it's interesting, man. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to. Oh, I've already went to the big finish. I'm clicking on buttons. Things are happening. It's my birthday. I'm talking about Taker. Look what's happening.
The Undertaker is upset Doug to the point that he's just going straight to the finish. He's afraid if he doesn't get to the finish, he's going to hear that gong. And he's going to get bad news on his birthday.
Oh, no, I'm not ready for a last ride, but I think we're finished with the news. So instead of going finish, let's hit the main event.
Main event time. We are here to talk Royal Rumble. And Royal Rumble has always been, as I stated at the top of the show, one of my absolute favorites. It starts the road to WrestleMania. The match itself, Doug, to me, it's always been one of the best gimmicks, rest in peace, Pat. But he developed an amazing match concept that actually breathed real life and real stakes into the traditional battle royal, which I never was a fan of. But Royal Rumble, I mean, you have comedy spots, you have feuds that start. It's a show into itself. It is about a lot more than just who ends up winning the Rumble. There's a lot of stories and storylines and seeds that can be planted in that one match. And last year, I think they did it better than they had in a long time. I think that the 2020 edition was the best Royal Rumble they had in forever. And honestly, I know there was one more pay-per-view, I think, after Royal Rumble that had fans. But really, to me, just because of how major a Royal Rumble is, that's really the last pay-per-view or major wrestling event I can think of as normal.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I agree, because like you, I am not a fan of a traditional battle royal, but the Royal Rumble is not the traditional battle royal. I mean, the battle royals, especially in WWE, seem like, okay, we got a bunch of guys that haven't been on TV for a while. Let's get them out here and get them a paycheck. Let's get them in the ring. Let them kill 10 minutes of TV time, and then we'll run our main story through, in the last 2 minutes of this battle royal or whatever. But, like you say, the Royal Rumble is full of individual stories. You have your comedy spots, you have your surprise returns, you have your legends return to get some rub on some of the new guys, and then gracefully or sometimes not so gracefully exit the ring and move on. The Royal Rumble really has it all in a single match, and it is a very, very exciting match into itself just because of that.
And I guess if I had one complaint is that there was a time that because the Royal Rumble winner would go on to headline WrestleMania, that I think that one of the reasons that last year was so good is that it was regaining some of the feel of the early Royal Rumbles, because it started to become a little bit predictable. Royal Rumble for a long while before they had a monthly pay-per-view. Royal Rumble was the last stop before WrestleMania. So you'd set the stage at Royal Rumble, and there was no way to unset that stage for the couple months intervening. And you also only had one champion, and there was not a women's match. So you could pretty well narrow down to two or three, liable candidates for who might win. You weren't going to get any big surprises, and after a while, it became pretty easy to predict. Well, it's going to be one of these two or three guys because that's the only one that makes sense facing the champion. Now you have a pay-per-view in between where they can, make a title change so that you have a different matchup than you thought you were going to get. You have multiple brands. So now last year we saw Charlotte Flair win the women's match and then go on to challenge for the NXT title. So they even had a third option in there. So I think that there's a lot more intrigue now, Doug, than there used to be, and that you can take that winner and go a lot of different directions with it. Before, you'd have that winner and you had one direction to go in it. So it made it a little more, you either went for the predictable choice, which was probably the right choice, but maybe took some of the intrigue out of the match, or you went the surprise choice, which maybe was good for the night, but maybe not good for the overall, long-term booking. They have a lot more of a runway now.
Absolutely. It's going to be some good stuff getting into it. We don't have a full list of our Rumble competitors yet, do we?
We don't. And if you wanted to go ahead and get the non-Rumble matches out of the way, because really it is about the Royal Rumble matches, we'll talk. You want to maybe start with the Women's Championship, because we only have 3 matches other than the Rumble matches.
Let's go with the women's, because let's see, we have what are there? You know what? I'm looking at Wikipedia right. A women's championship on here yet?
We got the SmackDown Women's Championship is set. So we got Sasha Banks defending her belt against Carmella. They've had a feud going for a bit now. This past week, that match was set. Basically, Sasha said, "I will give you the match if you let me have,
Somalia, whatever."
Who, to his credit, could flip like crazy. Okay, I don't know who he is at NXT. I think I've seen him before at the Performance Center and like footage and things, but the dude did show some athletic promise. But the boss, she got the bank statement on him, and so now she gets the match with Carmella. Which seems in some ways like a reward for Carmella, but nonetheless.
I mean, the thing with WWE booking is why is the champion wrestling to get the challenger into a championship match? So anyway, here, I'm just going to make this one real simple for all the folks at home and for you, Kevin. We know Dynamite Doug is a huge Dynamite mark, and we know that Dynamite Doug is also a huge Boss mark. So I'm not betting against the Boss. Sasha Banks walks out of this one.
I don't see any need of prolonging this one either. There's no way that Sasha Banks isn't still holding that belt come WrestleMania in the middle of April, because I think that there's some matches that they're building towards in Wrestler of the Year by many people's estimation, female Wrestler of the Year for certain up there. So yeah, the Boss retains. I'm not sure I see a whole lot changing as far as titles on this show, Doug. We got the 2 men's championships. You want to go the Universal title or the World title?
Oh, let's go Universal.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't see KO will lose to the Tribal Chief, because the Tribal Chief is going to WrestleMania as the champion. That's even in a last man standing match with the stipulations that I'm looking at here. Tribal Chief is going to win. I mean, I love KO and I love heel Roman Reigns. I mean, a year ago watching this, if you would have heard me say, "Oh man, Reigns is it," we'd be like, "Okay, Doug is drunk. What's going on with him?" I'm not, but Reigns is great. Reigns is great. So is KO. We'll be entertained, but at the end of the night, Reigns will still be champion.
These two have already had 2 great matches. I mean, they really did. Their pay-per-view contest last time around was great. The follow-up cage match that they did was also, I think, maybe even better than the match they had on pay-per-view. pay-per-view. I was happy to see them make the switch to KO because originally this was scheduled to be Roman. Well, I must say I'm a little disappointed. There's a part of me that's disappointed that it didn't end up Roman Reigns versus Adam Pearce. I mean, we know how that would have turned out. It would have been a glorified squash match. But, I mean, he's the former NWA World Champion, never got himself a chance. The old Scrap Daddy never got to go on a WWE television. I would love to see him get his pay-per-view match. But this will be a better contest. It will be a good contest. There's no way in the world that we're not seeing Roman Reigns in a major spot at WrestleMania. So the travel, it'll be a heck of a fight. KO will put up another, contest where you think that there's a couple of moments that he's actually going to be able to pull it out, but he won't. Spoiler, not going to happen.
So, and looking at the WWE Championship, man, do we really need to see Goldberg? I mean, Goldberg can't go. I mean, Goldberg's thing has never been to go in the ring for a long run in a match. So this one goes quickly, and I really think the winner of this, it tells a story, and its placement on the card says everything about the winner of this match. Right? If Goldberg comes out there, hits a spear, jackhammer, takes McIntyre out, McIntyre's coming out as a surprise entrant in the Men's Royal Rumble and winning. Otherwise, so he can circle back around and they can have Goldberg v. McIntyre at Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania, and then they start building to that. I hope that's not the case, though. I don't want to see that. I don't need to see that. I think WWE is really big on pulling the nostalgia trigger when the ratings start to dip. They get Goldberg back. They have Legends Night. They bring all these like 60-year-old guys out in the middle of a global pandemic, which they shouldn't be doing. But I'm not going to rant about that anymore. We got a whole show about that coming up, I think. But man.
I'm almost afraid, though, to root against, or not to root against. I'm definitely rooting against Goldberg, but I think if there's any of the 3 title matches announced thus far where we will see a title change, it is actually this one. I don't think it will happen. I believe they'll go Drew, but the last time I thought that Goldberg was just back for the nostalgia pop and there's no way they'd put the main belt on him, they put the main belt on him. So rumors are right now that he is slated for a WrestleMania match, and that WrestleMania match right now looks like it's going to be the never before seen contest between Goldberg and John Cena. That probably stands on its own as a legend versus legend, probably doesn't need a belt stipulation to it. It doesn't mean they won't go that route. It really does. I think you're right. The placement on the card is going to say a lot about maybe what happens later on. But I think that, I'm going to predict anyway that it's Drew going over in this, but it could be this could be the one that if they feel like they need to get a title change on one of their major pay-per-views, this might be the one where they make that switch.
Yeah, man. Like I say, I'm going to go down to placement on the card. If this comes before the Men's Royal Rumble, Drew can kiss that championship goodbye, only because he's swinging back around, I think. But we'll see. I'm not sure if I want to see. I don't want to see Goldberg Cena either. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see. I want to see Cesaro Reigns is what I want to see. I want to see.
They're looking at like 2 big marquee matches per night since it's a 2-night WrestleMania event this year, and that would be one of them. Obviously, the title matches being the other, so they probably would get some other kind of boneyard type cinematic match or some other legend versus legend special contest in addition to your normal WrestleMania stuff. Yeah, like you, I mean, honestly, Goldberg's wrestled more in the last 2 years than John Cena has. In some ways, a John Cena return would be a bigger news at this point, but that may be getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. Let's talk Women's Royal Rumble first then, because I think there's maybe more surprises on the way for the men's match. Obviously, Doug, we do these prediction shows and say who's going to win, in a one-on-one contest. There's nothing more difficult, especially nowadays when you do have 2 matches, 3 brands, multiple options where they can go with it. It gets a little harder to predict overall winners. So Let's talk women's match first, and let's just talk in general about the match before we talk about who we think might be there at the end and who might ultimately win it all. Is there any surprises you're anticipating, or any comebacks that you think of that might be on hand for the women's match?
We might see Rousey. I don't know though. I mean, it's too soon for Becky Lynch to come back. We might see Rousey, but and we'll get some Legends action. Whether it's a Kelly or somebody like that showing up to get a nostalgia pop. We're going to get that, but maybe a Michelle McCool, repping the dead man, since he is retired, I'm guessing, unless Vince needs somebody special at a Saudi Arabia show or something. But I think I don't think we're going to see the surprises there. I think the biggest surprise would be Rousey, but I don't know.
I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest possible surprise. That's likely. The first year it was almost half filled with WWE legends, and honestly, that was twofold. To thank all those women for paving the road to get to a women's Royal Rumble match, but two, just for practical reasons, let's be quite honest, at the time they probably didn't have enough women on the roster to fill out an entire Royal Rumble. Not a problem anymore with a robust roster on both Raw, SmackDown, and now NXT and developmental. Do you think, Doug, that you foresee any NXT talent like an Io Shirai or Candice LeRae or those making their appearance?
I think we may see some appearances from some NXT to just kind of bring out some high spots and do bump dive with the knee slaps and all that, and get some pops, but no actual call ups coming out of this. And in the end, nobody from NXT actually winning the Royal Rumble to move on to, I guess, have that chance at calling out any of the three women's champions. I don't see that happening. How about you?
I tend to think that if we do get a Ronda Rousey, I don't think that we will. That's not been rumored. I honestly try to actually avoid a lot of the inside, because I really want to be surprised. That's the one thing I really always loved about Royal Rumble back in the WCW days, especially. You never knew if someone's contract had been up or someone was coming back from Japan, or there was always. I loved the surprises. I think Rousey's the only possible thing that would maybe make some jaws drop. Is like, wow, they're back. I think we'll get some NXT, recipient, participants. I think that actually Rhea Ripley is someone who might be not only likely to go on. I think that go into the match. I think she could be someone who's likely to maybe be still standing at the last three or four folks. Charlotte won last year. Charlotte seems like she's maybe destined for different things this year at WrestleMania. With this angle with her father right now, and not that they couldn't wrap that up in plenty of time to start her on a title hunt, but I kind of think that the women's match this year might be the spot they have. Because in my men's match, I'm thinking it might go more back towards some folks you might expect. Last year, Drew McIntyre, what made the Rumble so great last year was McIntyre was someone that was not main event even at the time, and this elevated him to the main event. I think they might try to do something like that this year. I think if Bianca Belair is poised, athletically speaking, and everything else, charisma. I mean, would you want to not see the EST versus the Boss?
Versus the Boss, absolutely, because that's my pick for the Women's Rumble, brother. That's I want to see that so bad. Boss takes care of Carmella at the Royal Rumble. Then we start building with Bianca Belair. Boss versus the EST. Man, that writes itself.
It writes itself. I know that Bayley will probably be sticking around towards the end. They always, that last 4 or 5 is also very telling when they have a Royal Rumble, because that plants the seeds too as to who management thinks of as main event status.
Yep.
You gotta have Bayley in there, but the work that she and Sasha did this last year was so fantastic. But I think it's just too early to go back to that. So I think they'll give you that hope spot of, her like there, trying to get back into a match at WrestleMania with Sasha, but I just don't think that's going to happen. If Ronda Rousey's in it, that definitely would throw things more into turmoil, because they might go that route. But yeah, if I had to say, Bianca is my pick to win.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% there, because she is also mine. I'm not sure of all the contestants. It looks like there's still a lot to fill out before a Rumble, but I don't think it really matters, because Bianca is my call. Bianca. Oh. EST versus Boss. Love to see it. Hope it happens.
I definitely see that Charlotte, is going to have a big role in there, and I'm sure her father and Lacey Evans will have some sort of say with that. I also, and there's part of me that's almost afraid to speak it into the universe, Doug. But if there was a time to go sort of funny with it, not funny, but just the whole slip on a banana peel underdog thing. You know where I'm probably going with this, Lana.
Yep, because I'm still waiting for that big payoff from Lana being, continually hammered into tables earlier this year or last year.
That's what I'm thinking. At the very least, she's eliminating Nia Jax, or at least to get some of her heat back on that. But man, if I get her go all the way and hide under the ring or hold onto a rope or something, and
do the old road dog thing and just get down on the bottom rope and just hold on.
It's a possibility. But it sounds like we're on track, thinking the same for this. The men's Royal Rumble has a little more intrigue to me, because I don't think, to me yet, it's clear which direction they're going to go in it. I think that again, let's do like we did with the women's match. Do you see any returns in this that you're anticipating?
No returns that I'm anticipating, and I don't know his health status right now. But I think a returning Jimmy Uso to land in the Royal Rumble and actually come out on top, or just the tease of it to get him in those last 5 or 6, would be a great flip to the story that exists there on SmackDown with the Tribal Chief and everything that's going on with Jay. But I don't know his health status. I'm a little bit out of the loop on actual wrestling news right now. So thanks for bringing me up the head of the show. I appreciate that. But I think that could be an interesting surprise return. Again, don't know about Edge's status either.
I think Edge is close, and he's the one I think is likely. I've heard nothing that says that's a given, but just based on the timing, just based on the fact that WrestleMania season is upon us, I think it'd be the right time for him to make a return if he's ready to go.
Yeah. And just looking at who we've got now, we have Orton is confirmed for being in there. So Edge coming in and eliminating Orton to go ahead and kick off that final rubber match between the two of them. Get that third match in there at WrestleMania.
Is it going to be Randy in the match, or is it going to be Mr. Wrestling number 2? Because that's what I'm sorry. First thing I thought when it was on there, I'm like, did I accidentally kick up Georgia Championship Wrestling on the network and I'm having a flashback? Or obviously Orton and Edge have unfinished business. They have great chemistry. I can see that happening too. The only thing that kind of in my mind gets in the way of that right now is he's got to wrap this whole Fiend business up. Orton does. And who knows where that's going? Does he, join the Fiend? You think they're enemies now, but we've seen it happen before. The Fiend as enemies end up being his stable mates. And
people, brother, the Fiend changes people.
So Orton, could go that route and then still get involved with Edge by the time middle of April shows up. But I think Edge is coming back. I think you're going to see, because they do need surprises. I wouldn't be surprised if you see, a couple of WWE legends or some guys that have not been in the ring in a while. Samoa Joe come back from behind that announce table, or Wade Barrett come from behind an announce table and get in there and try his luck. As far as the end goes, though, to me, I think this might be an instance where you go back to more of the straight booking routes of the past. Not that it won't be exciting to get there, but I think that there are three or four men who are most likely to be amongst the last ones standing. I think Keith Lee is one of those. I would love to think that Keith Lee might win the whole thing. Sentimentally, I would like to see that. He's got some business with Drew McIntyre. I don't know that a Vince McMahon would see that as a WrestleMania worthy match. It was my only fear. I think, though, you're likely to see your, Jimmy or Jay Uso, as you said, there maybe to give some thought that he might be, trying to upend things for the cousin. I think, though, that because he hasn't had a big storyline for a bit now, he's kind of been waiting in the wings. It seems that the idea of The Rock coming and challenging Roman Reigns is maybe still down the road. I think you're going to have Roman versus Shield versus Shield. I think that's
that's right, because it would not be too early for Papa to come back, and we have the Messiah coming back. I had not even thought about that. I was just thinking it's too early for Becky Lynch to come back, but it's definitely not too early. I mean, he's there, so.
He's there. He's a main event level player. He's been gone on paternity leave. Even as a main event player, when he was around, he was kind of in a mid-card feud. He wasn't wrestling for the title. He wasn't near the main event. If you can't do Roman versus The Rock family rights for WrestleMania, which, ultimately they would like to get to, going, another former champion and former brother, I think that might be the best option for Roman. So I think that Seth Rollins returns and wins.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but there it is. That you're right. I can't disagree with it. You win. You win the Rumble, dude. You win.
I win the Rumble. Oh man, that's awesome.
There you go. You got to point to the sign now.
I just hope that. Oh yeah. I just hope that they can even come close in a reduced capacity, reduced, hopefully, environment. Actually, I guess with Royal Rumble, there won't be fans. That's going to be different. Just because the excitement and the gasp and the cheers once that, 10, 9, 8. There's just something so great about the Royal Rumble that the fans really add to. As we saw last year, again, it's not about who wins is obviously really important, but last year that run that Lesnar went on, where he just kept eliminating dude after dude. All that was memorable, and he wasn't there for even the finish. Do you think Lesnar returns in this, Doug, before we move on to the big finish? Is that a possibility?
I don't think we're seeing Lesnar this year. I don't think the Beast is back. No, so, don't see it happening.
So maybe Edge and Rollins as far as returns go, but that you think as big as the surprises are going to get?
I think so. I really think so. I don't see the Beast coming back yet. Of course, he's a ratings pop, so. Who knows? I'm not sure how you work him into a storyline then. And considering that character, I don't see how he comes out on top unless you're building to something, and I don't know what that something would be right now. But I don't know. I want to be surprised, man. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be surprised. So.
And that's where you and I are 100% in agreement that. I think what always made Royal Rumble fun for me is you didn't know who was going to show up when that clock hit 1. And then at the end, you usually didn't have any idea who was going to be, because there was usually 4 or 5 left in the last few minutes, all who seemed like they could be conceivable main eventers. And that's part of the fun of it. I would love to be surprised. Last year, they shocked the heck out of me. Yeah. I'm sitting there hoping for Drew McIntyre, knowing that every other man that was left at that point in the last 4 or 5 had a much better shot than he did, and they went with him. So I hope one of the matches delivers that kind of excitement for us. And Doug, with that, you ready to move to the big finish?
Let's move to the big finish. Kevin, we were talking earlier, in the day, actually via what is that thing we have? Google Drive. When I was putting things together, I read your notes and I was like, I totally agreed with them. And right before we went on air, because I was running a little bit late and showed up at exactly 7:59, which is another reason I'm always surprised when we go live, because I show up and go, okay, you're here, I'm going to hit the go live button. But, we're going to change the embarrassment of the week too. And clearly, I have no idea why this did not come to us a year ago, but it should really be the botch of the week. And brother, this is where I'm going to lean heavy into you once again, because the only wrestling I've really seen fully this week was Dynamite. So,
well, for me, I'm glad we're going to botch of the week. Obviously, the big finish, we call it our 1, 2, 3 because we do the botch of the week, performer of the week, and a match of the week. We called it embarrassment, but most weeks it's not just awfully embarrassing. It's more just a missed opportunity sometimes, or something we just thought was corny. And embarrassment sometimes seems strong. Maybe botch of the week this week. Maybe it should have been embarrassment one more week, because this one to me was kind of my fears coming true. Last week we had a special where we talked about in our main event topic this Impact AEW alliance, and I had most of it is going fantastic. I love the direction that most of it's going. The one thing I was worried about, though, is the idea that one promotion becomes the heel promotion, one promotion becomes the lesser than promotion, all the digs at Impact and all that. I'm like, we got to stop that stuff to right the ship. And one of the things I also mentioned that I thought was worrisome is it worked with Vince McMahon because we hadn't seen it before. And we've seen wrestling go to that well many, many times since McMahon versus Austin Boss, a guy who's not going to get in the ring as an on-air character. It worked that time. Every iteration of it since has been a lesser iteration of it, as they just replicate copy of a copy of a copy. Tony Khan early on made it pretty clear that he was not going to be an on-air talent for AEW. He wanted to let his superstar shine, not make the mistake that a Dixie Carter made with Impact, where she centered the show around her. And then lo and behold, even though the first couple of weeks I thought it was funny, I liked it that Tony was on Impact programming and these little like vignettes where he has a commercial. Those commercials started becoming not promotions for AEW. Instead, they started becoming slams on Impact. It started to be heel Tony Khan, and I thought, oh no, please don't become a character. Not that he has been bad at it, it's just not the way I wanted to see this going. And then this week on Impact, he's not only in the commercial, he's there in the studio. He's at ringside. He's taking notes. The announcers are talking about the demon that is Tony Khan. And I mean, he's totally the heel in this scenario, and it's all centered around him. I love that Private Party was in the main event of Impact. That was awesome. Matt Hardy there, the Private Party were there, in the main event of Impact, showing that, Doug, some of the matches we talked about last week could possibly happen. They're actually branching this out beyond just being about Kenny, the Good Brothers, anyone involved with them. It's definitely a cross-promotional thing now. Unfortunately, it looks like Tony is one of the heel characters in this. And to me, that's a botch waiting to happen. And maybe I'm not the only one that thinks that. Impact has really seen a for them strong ratings boost since this whole crossover started. Obviously, a lot of AEW fans switching over and watching a product maybe they hadn't before. This week's ratings took a nosedive, so Tony was not a ratings draw and might have actually turned a few folks off.
So here's something interesting about that, because Tony I think it was on Renee Young's podcast, has went out of his way to say he has to reiterate, he said he has no interest in being an on-air talent. He has plenty of other talent, and that commissioner general manager role on Dynamite will never exist as an on-air talent. He said there was an exception for the tribute to Brody Lee, because as the owner of the company, he felt he needed to come out and represent, the leadership. But otherwise, doesn't want to be, on camera talent. I guess that doesn't cross over to Dynamite, from Dynamite to Impact. It's cool with him being an on-air character on Impact, though.
It does worry me that, at one point Dixie Carter said the same thing, that she got talked into it. She didn't want to do it, but for some reason, when these folks see themselves on TV, it becomes a lot of fun, and I get it. I would enjoy it. I'm not going to say no to it if either Impact or AEW Dynamite want to offer me an on-air role. I just hope that they don't continue down that path, because I definitely like the powers that be being behind the scenes and not making themselves part of the show. So we'll see.
Back right in this crap,
Yep, it's hard to make that separation. But I will give, now moving on to the Performer of the Week, Doug, this is one that you can talk about since you saw Dynamite, and we'll say some good things about Tony Khan and his product, because my Performer of the Week is -1. It was the kid's birthday, or actually it wasn't, but they celebrated his birthday. And then he got to talk smack to the Dark Order. He got to throw the papers like his father used to do. He got a cane shot in. And really, I'm giving my Performer of the Week to him. But really, I would like to give it to the wrestling world in general, but AEW specifically. It's one thing when they did the tribute show, like you just mentioned before, Doug, when Tony came out for the tribute show. It was the tribute show to Brody Lee. It was a special event because of the passing of Brody Lee. You could have done that and given that boy wrestling fantasy camp one night and been satisfied that you did something really good for him, got his mind off things, and then moved on to have your wrestling product in your wrestling show. The fact that he continues to be part of the show, the fact that he continues to be part of being the elite, and just the way that the whole wrestling world and AEW in particular has come to embrace and support that family. We hear so much bad about professional wrestling. We report on a lot of that bad here on the show. And so maybe wrestling isn't always known as the warm and fuzzy industry. But when you see what they've done for this young man and his family and the respect that Brody got, it's heartwarming and goes to show that, don't judge books by their cover. There's a lot of good also in the world of professional wrestling and the men and women that run it and participate in it. And I think the way that this whole community has rallied behind Brody Lee's family is inspiring.
And you just knew that poor Dr. Luther was going to end up with his face in that cake as soon as he came out. But yeah, that's great. I will agree with that. -1, the just love, the genuine interactions with the fans and that have happened since that Brody Lee tribute, and everything that's come out about how Brody was, this awesome human being. I think it's really shining through in what AEW continues to do for the family. And -1 is contracted talent, so
and that's valuable time. I mean, when you're starting off your show, when you're going head to head with your rival promotion, and you're starting it with this young man in this angle, it goes to show that they're, maybe it's getting pops like you and I are popping for it, and maybe people are watching, but a lot of folks that might be wanting to tune in and see the Lucha Bros at the start of the show or something. Maybe they're like, why are you taking my time with all this? And they don't care. Tony and the gang are putting that up front on their show, which again just goes to show that there's things more important in this business than oftentimes what we report on that this business can often center about.
And I think that goes to this is an aside going back to Taker's Joe Rogan podcast, but the wrestling business has changed in the last 30 years, and what is important to the fan base as a whole may not necessarily be as what was important to the fan base, in the 90s, in the heyday, but and I think maybe does actually get that, but.
And we know a whole lot more about the business side of things than we did 30 years ago. So we know, from their social profiles, from behind the scenes reports, we know a lot more about their families and their personal lives. And we as fans are invested in, in this horrible tragedy and wanting to see, knowing what this young man has had to go through, to see his mind taken off of it while he gets to enjoy the thing that his father loved to do and loved with his son. Gosh, that's more important than who wins the quarter ratings at 8:00, isn't it?
Right. So let's talk about match of the week.
Match of the week. Well, for me, I know last week, man, I had a long list because there was a year's worth of match of the year contest that happened between Wrestle Kingdom and New Year's Smash and New Year's Evil and all that. This week was more of a normal week for me. Some good matches, nothing that was like 5-star classics, but I had two. So I'm going to go though if I had to limit it to one. Seeing Ricochet and AJ Styles competing on Monday Night Raw, they would love to see them go longer. Would love to see the match, have something on the line, mean more. But that was a fantastic contest. If you saw one match this week, watch that one. If you had time for two, throw in Ring of Honor and watch the pure contest between Josh the Goods Woods and Dalton Castle. That was another fantastic match.
So again, I just saw Dynamite this week, so I can't really talk about wrestling as a whole. But I do have to say I really enjoyed the I almost called them the Final Order. That's not right. I'm mixing Dark Order with the final match. The Inner Circle tag match, between all the guys in the Inner Circle. I don't like that necessarily the actual tag team in the Dark Order got like the lesser end of the tag team stick there. But I really like seeing Jake Hager really step up and and Sammy and the right guy won that, MJF coming off with the heel win. So yeah, I have to give it to that. And I'm just going to say not a week, but I'm going to pick the match of Dynamite, and I will say that's all I'm really qualified to talk about this week. So
it was a well booked contest because I like the way they got to that finish, and I agree with you on everything you said. That was my favorite segment, other than the -1 segment that opened the show. That was my favorite part of Dynamite this past week. So good call out.
So I think that's it for us. We are at that hour mark. You got anything else, brother?
I will just say next week we will not be on at 8. We will be on immediately following the Royal Rumble, and we can sit here and discuss how right or wrong we were and whether or not they were able to pull off exciting 1-hour matches with no fans. Let's wait. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining, everybody. Happy birthday, brother.
Happy birthday. Thanks, everybody. Good night.